that way?
What's that?
Here we are. Now destroy that bloody rune.
Shouldn't we at least study it first? I mean, we don't know what...
Are you deaf? Destroy it!
Alright. I'll take care of it now. But I need... privacy.
Are you trying to trick me, dwarf? I swear, if you...
Fine, come then. Come and keep shouting at me all you like, because that's the best way to ensure I'll make a mistake and have that rune cause your sister's brain to explode.
All right. You'll get your privacy. I'll go find a bed for Myra in the meantime. She needs water and food.
All right, here we are.
Iskrim? What's the matter?
I won't do it.
What?
You heard me. I will not destroy the rune.
Are you joking? This thing is what's controlling Lady Myra.
Yes, it is, but there's something I haven't told you. Something I only found out a week ago.
Yes?
The Shapers. I finally understand their secret. Why they persisted for so long. Why during their reign there was not a single power who dared to defy them. Not even the dragons. Why there was peace.
The rune.
It all makes sense now. The Shapers used these runes to control, to ensure stability.
They enslaved their own people by exerting mind control. Is that what you're getting at?
Enslaved? So a murderer put behind bars is a slave too? No, Tahar. They used the runes to protect their empire from its enemies, from outside and from within. Don't you see? This is the reason why there were no wars, no coups, no stupid rebellions. Because the Shapers had the power to correct misguidance. And the best thing about it? The control didn't even suffer. They merely had their views readjusted and continued to live on a normal life.
And you think this is a good thing? Being able to bend minds to your will?
Look, Tahar, I'm not stupid. I know there's a danger in that power, but there's a danger in every power. Blasted, you're a mage. Thousands of people would like to see you burn. And just because they're afraid of that power inside you, your magic, just like the rune, it's a tool. Don't you see that? And a tool is neither good nor evil. It's merely a potential. And this, Tahar, this is the potential to change the world for the better.
What about the ghosts who protected this place? They seem to have gotten more than a little readjustment.
Yes, probably because their crimes required a more severe punishment. Isn't that poetic justice? Rather than killing a wrongdoer, he's bound to protect those he wanted to hurt. Just imagine the potential of this.
Lady Myra doesn't seem normal at all. She acts like some kind of machine.
Yes, because neither we nor the Purity have even come close to comprehending the true power of the rune. We're sodding amateurs.
So what's your plan? Use the rune to create a second Shaper empire?
No, use it for the greater good. For us, for our purpose. For our battle against that lunatic Lacane. Damn it, Tahar. This might be the key that I've been looking for. The key for stability, for peace. I will not destroy it.
Iskrim, calm down. There has to be another way.
No, there isn't.
Iskrim, you've said it yourself. With Myra's current state of mind, she cannot help us win over the other houses. And without them, we'll never recapture Greykeep. Lacane will win. Please, you have to trust me with this. The rune must be destroyed.
Fine. Fine. But I'm doing this for you. You understand me? I will destroy it. But as soon as there's time, I will start my research again, and no, you cannot stop me. Agree with me or not, I know this power can do good. I just know it. It's done. Go see after Lady Myra, Tahar. I need time.
Of course. As you want.
I don't understand. What do you mean? Cold?
I don't know, Angar. I just feel different.
Let us see.
Taha, what happened? Did the dwarf destroy the room?
He did.
I see. Well, something is off. Myra, she's different.
What?
Myra?
I don't know. I feel strange, cold.
See? That bloody rune, it did something to her mind.
Lady Myra, what do you mean by cold?
Dark, empty. I don't know how to describe it. Forgive me.
But you remember who you are, don't you?
I am Lady Myra Emmeline Arendir, third-born daughter of House Uhtred.
But we destroyed it.
That's my point. Her mind, it must have suffered permanent damage. None of this should have happened. None of it. Myra, you should get some rest. Things might be different tomorrow.
Yes, brother. As you say.
Come, let us call your companions. There's things that need discussing.
I've been wondering, do you have a family? Heirs?
That question came unexpected.
Is it so hard to answer?
It isn't. No. I don't have a family. Save for my sisters.
How come?
Well, I'm afraid to understand my answer, I need to go back a little. You see, I had always known what my life would look like, long before it became what it is. You see, House Arendir is one of the eldest of Northander. The role of every Arendir had already been chosen the moment he or she was given birth to. For me, it was always clear that I would be the Lord Marshal of the Royal Army.
So your parents forced you to do this?
Let me put it this way. It was my duty. Of course, I could have rebelled, but even back then, I had already come to realize that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Sure, I too had had my share of boyhood dreams, but betraying my parents and the realm had never been an option.
Being a royal commander sounds an awful lot like a boyhood dream to me.
I guess it does. But you need to keep in mind that we Arendirs were raised for this. I knew from the start that a military path had little to do with the tale of brave knights in shining armor from the poems and the plays. People, especially in youth, often crave for what they don't have. The fisherman's daughter might dream of a life as a princess, whereas the princess aches for the charming vagabond to take her to an exotic place, far away from her life of etiquette, stern-faced governesses, and arranged marriage.
What did you dream of? Also a charming sellsword who'd take you to exotic places?
Very funny. You see, one of my uncles had been a seaman. His branch of the family was by far the least powerful one, but whenever he came to visit, I didn't leave his side for a minute. He had sailed to Kalea to meet with the Blood Oracle, to Imperia to the great Colosseums. And once, he had even sailed all around the lands of winter. You can imagine that for me as a boy, his stories were a lot more exciting than my lessons in math, history, and politics. And more than once after his visits, I found myself lying in bed and wondering what it would be like to just pack my bags, enlist on one of the trade ships, and see all these marvels my uncle had told me about myself. A foolish fantasy, of course, but still, it existed.
But yet, you never seriously contemplated becoming a seaman.
No. I was young, yes, but I wasn't a fool. Even if duty and loyalty had not been a concern of mine, I knew that my uncle only told me about the good parts of his life. He never spoke of how a snowstorm cost him 3 of his fingers, and why he always carried a bottle of brandy wherever he went.
Is your uncle still alive?
No. His ship ran aground when I was 14 winters old.
For what it's worth, I think staying was the right choice.
I'm glad you approve. Either way, we digress.
I still don't understand why becoming the Lord Marshal stopped you from having a family.
It was a choice. I probably don't need to tell you this, but love and marriage are as much a duty as any other. You cannot be a good husband or a good wife if you don't commit entirely. And the same goes for parenthood. And the higher I rose, the more I realized that people in my position, whose decisions affect the lives of tens of thousands, can and should only have one commitment.
Their duty.
Yes. I know it sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. I chose not to have a family, because the realm was my wife and its people were my children. Allowing somebody else into my life would have meant betraying the others.
What about the Arendir bloodline? Who will carry on your name if you don't have an heir?
My sister, Myra.
But isn't she a widow?
Yes. Her husband, Lord Uhtred, died in the Mage Wars. But she's still young, and once we've ended this madness, I will encourage her to look for a new, suitable partner.
But there are commanders that have families.
And they have them at an expense. If life taught me anything, then it's that excellence requires absolute dedication. And with the responsibilities that I have, I simply cannot allow myself to be distracted.
I think you're wrong. Dedication and family don't exclude each other.
They do. But we've wasted enough time. You wanted an answer, and that was it. Is there anything else you wanted to know?
I'll be leaving now.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Yes?
So, what's the plan? Corporal? Need anything?
Goodbye. Understood.
Let me see.
All right. Now that my sister is safe and we have the Utran army beside us, we need to discuss our course of action. As I've hinted at already, there are two more problems we need to take care of before we can gather to convince the other royal houses to join forces with us and reconquer Greykeep.
Lekain's Iron Ones, and the Leonida forces.
Iron Ones? You mean these giant walking armors?
Yes, we need to destroy the place where the Purity manufactures them. And we need to eliminate Amaria Leonida, who has allied herself with the Harbinger.
House Leonider has the strongest army in Nortander. Wouldn't it be wiser to forge the alliance with Wulfgar and Hallet first and then deal with them?
It would, but Leonider is controlling the borders. In other words, until we've taken care of her and the Ironborn, we couldn't move the Wulfgar or Hallet forces, even if they agreed to an alliance.
Any idea what these Iron Ones actually are? Golems?
No, I doubt it. They have the magical signature of a human. I guess we'll need to find out.
Yes, though I'm fairly certain the Harbinger's new magic has to do with it. The Archfire.
But if that's the case, how are we supposed to deal with them?
Well, according to my scouts, there is a place where they are being created by whatever unholy power is behind this. And it seems that this smeltery, if you want to call it that, is in the Windwall foothills.
So we travel to Windwall and burn down that factory. Is that the plan?
Yes, it's a simple task, but it won't be easy. We can be sure that the Purity is doing all in their power to protect it.
Amaria Leonider allied herself with the Harbinger? Why?
Because she's probably the most ardent follower of the Purity's teaching. She was the first truly influential Nortandian to repent when Lekain's new religion was founded, and also the first to declare her unconditional loyalty after Lekain showed his true face and took over Greyfell.
Could that also have something to do with what happened during the Mage War? That her sons fell in the last battle against my father?
I'm pretty sure it has. Did you know that she attempted to commit suicide? That was only months after the Queen had put an end to her father's doing. So yes, her loyalty to the Purity almost certainly has to do with her losses. She also despises you, as is Samo Tahar's child, from the bottom of her heart.
That's not good. How do you plan to neutralize her? We can't just move our army into Leonider territory. That would be suicide.
Well, that's where we got lucky. Amaria Leonida has taken up position in the Eye.
In the marshlands? Why?
My guess is as good as yours, but I suppose it has to do with your father's laboratory. I doubt Lekain is done with it.
So, Amaria is leading the army herself? How? I didn't know she knew about warfare.
Well, word has it that the Harbinger has, how should I say, granted Amaria a gift as a token of gratitude for her loyalty. Magical powers, in other words. Maybe even a part of this Archfire energy. No, I don't know if these rumors are true, but we'll have to consider them when we make our plan.
Well, seems like this will be quite the battle.
Indeed, which is why we need a good strategy.
Fair enough. Then let's start making preparations.
Good. I'll be here if you need me.
Huh?
Corporal Tahar? Corporal Tahar!
What's the matter?
I have news. Bad news.
Report.
The Iron Falcons from Aenir's Blade. They've sent word. A dragon has appeared near the canyon. An elder.
An elder? You mean...
Yes. From the legends.
What? But they've been asleep for centuries.
Well, apparently not.
Are you sure this isn't a mistake?
Quite sure. The Iron Falcons found 3 keepers torn apart and scorched in a way that only a dragon could do it. But what's even more alarming is that the Falcons believe that said dragon is heading our way.
Why?
I don't know, Corporal. I just don't know. What are your orders?
We need to confirm the rumor.
But how? I'm only a scout, Corporal. But the way I see it, we only have 2 options. Wait or act. If we wait, the dragon might attack Mulandir without us being prepared. If we act, at least we're the ones who decide where the confrontation will happen.
You have a point. What if the scouts are wrong, and the dragon isn't here for us?
It is a possibility.
Where is the dragon now? Is it moving?
I don't think so. According to the Falcons, it has landed in a small oasis in the scorching desert. A 1 or 2 day journey from Aenir's Blade. What will you do, Corporal? I know this war is already taking up all of your resources, but we cannot just stand by and watch while that creature comes at us, can we?
I'll travel to the oasis and see for myself.
I understand. You want me to tell the others?
I'll do it when we head out. Dismissed, Private.
Sir.
I'll take
Yes,
a
Corporal? How can I help?
Would you be willing to tell me more about your friend?
You seem to be quite adamant about this, aren't you? Fine, if you insist. What do you want to know?
What was she like?
That's a difficult question to answer. Compared to me, I would describe her as more cheerful, more talkative. She enjoyed the company of other people far more than I did. Of course, that conviviality was mostly a charade. Her interest in other people was genuine, but it was mainly because she wanted to study them. It was almost as if, until the very end, she believed that she could somehow overcome her nature. Of course, it didn't work.
Was she an assassin as well?
She was, yes.
How close were you and her exactly?
That's hard to say. We had sex in all those 5 years. She never left my side. So some people might have considered us lovers, but I'm not sure we ever felt that way towards each other. You see, I don't feel emotions the same way other people do. And neither did Mila. The feelings the bards all sing about, I never had them. And I doubt I am capable of feeling them at all. This bond we had it because we were alike. Because she understood me and I understood her. Without saying a word. And I doubt I will ever have that feeling again.
When you say you were alike, what does that mean? That she also hardly felt emotions?
Yes. But whereas for me, it had been becoming a dreamweaver that had made me who I am. Mila had simply been born that way. There was no logical reason for her condition. It was just what fate, or the gods, had given her.
I understand.
Maybe you do.
How did she... how did it happen? The blood burn?
Well, I presume you are familiar with how the disease progresses, so there's no need to explain that part. As for when and where, we were with a small caravan near Everlight, on our way back to Greyfell. We had made camp in a small forest when the symptoms first showed. An old man, one of the caravan leaders, started coughing blood. I think everybody saw, but they all acted as if they hadn't. From that point on, it went straight downhill. Almost 3/4 of the group were infected. And by the next day, a young boy had blood running from his eyes. Do you know what's strange?
What?
Up until that point, I didn't even consider the fact that Mila was infected as well. The thought just didn't ever cross my mind.
How did you find out?
A blister. On the 3rd morning after that night in the forest, she took a bath in a nearby river and I saw it. That was it. I knew what would happen. And so did she. I insisted on riding back to Everlight and looking for a healer. An irrational thing to do, and I knew it. But I figured that a chance was better than none. But she wouldn't have it. I want to tell life when it's over, not the other way around. That's what she had always told me. And that night, it turned out she meant it.
She took her own life.
Yes. When I returned to the camp that night, I found a letter where she told me to meet her at a nearby clearing. I did, and found her laying on the grass, hands crossed behind her head, as if she was watching the moon. There was an empty bottle next to her, and I immediately recognized it. It was the merciful slumber, the most painless of poisons at our disposal. When you drink it, it's almost like falling asleep, very slowly. She was smiling when she faded away.
How do you feel about her decision?
How should I feel? It was her decision. And it was the most rational choice to make. Dying of the blood burn is incredibly painful. And she avoided that pain. Her last memories were ones of peace.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to ask?
Just give the word.
Careful.
Corporal?
Huh? I'm still wondering what made you leave Kalea and travel the world to study demonology.
You're not letting this one go, are you? Alright, if your life depends on it, I'll tell you. To make it short, I grew up in the slums of Kalea. A shithole if ever there was one. Just imagine an entire quarter made up of half-ruined shacks with the smell of shit and piss everywhere, and way too many people. Then add the tropical heat to it, and you've got the place I grew up in. My father had left right after I was born. My mother is what you call a day laborer, though the days when she wasn't laboring outweighed the ones when she did. Whatever job there was, she took it. Even if it was cleaning the shit out of Kalaean canals. She worked hard, but it just wasn't enough. We lived in a windowless room, and I shared a bed with my mother for the first 14 years of my life. Long story short, after a while, my mother simply couldn't cover the expenses anymore. The rent for our room went up, and jobs became less and less, since the mage wars in Northander also affected the trade in Kalea. So my mother looked for someone to help her out, and found one. A man named Creo. He was a loan shark who had it all. A stupid name and a shady beard. 2 lackeys who followed him wherever he went. And above all, a complete lack of what other people would call decency.
I think I can see where this is going.
Sure you can. It's not the most unique of stories, is it? To cut to the chase, 1 year later we were in massive debt. Creo suggested my mother another way of making up for it. You can fill in the blanks. I was just too weak. Over and over this fucking bastard came. Had my mother tell me to go for a walk. And every time I had no choice but to obey. Do you have any idea how that feels, Tahar? To be that powerless? I remember one day I looked in the mirror and realized how much I hated the boy I saw. I hated his body with all its frail bones, his small arms, his bloodshot wet eyes. And that's when I decided to change things. So the next time he came, I fought back.
How did that go?
What do you think? He beat me up. And it was the same next time and the time after that. At first he found it funny. But after the 4th time he threatened to kill me. The only thing that stopped him from doing it is because my mother begged him to. And I had only made it worse. On my 14th name day I left home and joined up with the Kalaean sand prowlers. My mother begged me not to go. But I just couldn't. Standing there and watching this fucking bastard walk into our room again and again whenever he felt like it, I just couldn't. Dying would have been better than staying. The way I figured it was that if I earned enough money to pay Mother's debts, Creo would leave her alone. Once I was strong enough, I'd come back. Wait for him to show up again. And then... well, you can imagine the rest.
I think I can. So who were these sand prowlers?
A group of mercenaries. They took me in and trained me. And even though they were skeptical at first, they quickly realized that my determination made up for what my body was lacking. When I was 16 and I discovered my magic, one of their leaders made me his apprentice. The arcane universities are a shithole made up of boy-loving old geezers who care more about how you wear your hair than about your magic. I'll tell you the real thing. And that she did.
What about your plan to pay your mother's debts? Did that work out?
Well, I thought so at first, but we'll get there.
What was it like to work with the sand prowlers?
Well, if you were hoping for stories of sex, adventure, and intrigue, I have to disappoint you. Most of it was nasty stuff. Fighting in wars which you knew were wrong, beating up people who were practically helpless. But then again, the Chilean Guard was no better than that. It was a case of pick your poison.
Was that Sandprowler mage also who introduced you to demonology?
What? No, she was a mediocre mage at best. The most powerful thing she could do was lighting someone's hair on fire. Though of course she didn't see it that way. After 1 year I was already stronger than her, and I started my own studies.
Huh. So did you ever return to your mother?
Of course, on my 18th name day. I had wanted to return earlier, but a contract had me kept overseas for a lot longer than I had expected. Sorry. It's strange to talk about it.
What happened?
My mother. She was gone. Her room had been cleared out, and the neighbors told me she passed away unexpectedly just 3 weeks before I arrived. Her heart just stopped beating.
I'm sorry.
Why? It was a natural death. She was old when she gave birth to me, and the life on the Chilean streets isn't forgiving. In other words, it was bound to happen. I went into the room and looked for our stash. A small casket under the floorboards. I found it, opened it, and saw all the money I'd sent her over the years.
So...
She never used it to pay Creo as I instructed her. I have no idea why, but my best guess is that she thought it was mine since I earned it. She was that kind of person, you know? No matter how hard fate punched her in the face, she clung on to her ideals. Always did what was right rather than what was good for herself. And look what she got in return.
Did you ever visit her grave?
I did, but it was a mass grave. Dozens of corpses, all piled onto each other, with some earth shoveled on top of it. I threw up when I saw it, and never came back after that.
What about Creo?
Well, as you can imagine, I went to look for him. Right after I was able to think straight again. But he was gone.
Where?
I don't know. I asked everywhere and everyone who could know, and they either didn't or gave me different information. After a while, I gave up.
Why?
Because people like Creo are just a reality we have to deal with. I could have killed him, but what good would it have done? My mother was dead, and no amount of bloodshed and gut tearing could have changed that. The world doesn't give a fuck about your ideals, Tahar. About doing the right thing. That's just the shit we tell ourselves to help us sleep at night. You eat or you get eaten. It's that simple. I wasn't strong enough when I should have been. And that's why I couldn't help her. That will never happen again.
I see where you're coming from, but without ideals, we'd be living in the claws of Nor.
Yeah, keep telling yourself that. To wrap up the story, I enrolled at the university from the money my mother saved for me. Turned out the Sandprowler mage was wrong. There were some boy-loving professors, but they knew their shit. I studied and practiced until there was nothing left to study. Then I found out about demonology and the power in it. I quit university, and I've been traveling ever since. Taking jobs as a mercenary here and there, but above all, improving my skills. My last stop was Bargagora to summon a devourer.
Huh. And what are you after, in the long run?
I don't know. I'll find out when I get there.
Huh. Interesting story. Thanks for your trust, Uran.
Sure. Hope you're happy.
There you are. Tahar, I found something incredible.
What is it?
Remember how I asked you for permission to examine your mother's body? Undergas and I did that yesterday.
I hope you know that wasn't an easy decision for me.
Yeah, Tahar, I know. And believe me, we were respectful. Save for that strange stasis, her body's still unscathed.
So? Were you able to learn anything?
We did. And this is what I'm so excited about. That jewel in the front part of her cranium. At first, we thought it was simply an ornament to mark her as a member of the priest caste, but it's more than that. It has magical properties.
But it's still an ornament, isn't it? She wasn't born with it.
No, she wasn't. As I said, the different castes had different ornaments worked into their bodies, and while the ornaments of the lower castes were probably just adornments, those of the higher castes were actually magical.
What kind of magical properties?
It's somewhat similar to the Harbinger's rune. It's essentially a magical talisman that made them smarter and stronger. Long story short, despite her spirit being gone, the ornament still seems to be active. I think we could remove it.
And what for?
As I said, the jewel is magical. If you wear it, say, as a talisman, it could increase your magical powers significantly. It could really help us in our fight against Lacane.
Isn't that dangerous?
I'm close to certain it isn't. The ornaments are really just jewelry, like a ring, only woven into the flesh. I think we can remove it without causing your mother's body any harm. But then again, there's no way of knowing for sure.
All right. Do it.
Of course. Give me a moment, will you? Shouldn't take long. All right, Tahar. It worked. Here, take a look. Can you feel it? It's amazing.
And you're sure it didn't damage your body?
Pretty sure. Removing the jewel only caused a small wound, and I stitched it up right away. It should be fine. Now, take a look. Do you feel that energy?
You're right. It's immense.
Well, I guess now we know why the lower castes revered the priests as gods. Telepathy, magical ornaments, they were almost superhuman, so to speak. Either way, I think it'll help you on the field. Thanks again for your trust, Tahar.
Sure.